Before I begin, let me ask you all a question. Do you like your name? Do you feel connected to it? Does it mean something to you at this point of time? Good. Most of us love our names, not always in the conscious way, but our brain fires differently when we hear our names. It's like a mental signature, I guess, that means comfort, acknowledgement, and recognition. There's a documentary film called The Sweetest Sound based on this phenomenon. There are even meetings organized sometimes of people whose only thing in common is their name. It may really sound funny, but then we do feel proud to know that we were named after someone really important, like geniuses in the fields of science, history, sports, or some other creative field. I guess our names connect us to each other. They connect us to ourselves. And they connect us to the world outside. They remind us that we exist and that we count. I was born with no name. Sounds strange. They called me Mr. Ganpati's daughter or Mr. Iyer's daughter for the first 11 days of my birth. This was until my elder sister Vidya came up with the name Jayashri. Vidya had a friend in school named Jayashri who would top the class always and who won all the competitions. So she thought that, naming me Jayashri would take me to that status. Wow. Wish a name could do that. This was in the late 80s when there were a lot of Smitas and Soumyas, Poojas, Shilpas in my class. But there was only one Jayashri, as unique as me. Some people's name kind of fit them, I guess, I knew this girl from my school whose name was Preeti. That meant love, and she was lovely. And then there was this girl called Sweetie, and she was sensibly sweet, I say. But I guess there is the other end as to this as well. Veena was my father's friend's daughter, and they had named her Veena, but her voice was nowhere close to the melodious sound of the instrument, I say. It was like more of an annoying squeak. And then I remember this college professor I had, she was named Madhagini. And I remember the boys in my class teasing her as Mandagini, the super sensuous actress. I wondered how just an addition of a letter N changed the meaning of that name completely. That's just plain old bad luck when it comes to names, I guess. Growing up, I was fascinated by the names that began with the letter S, like the name Sneha or the most popular Simran. Those who have been a fan of Bollywood movies, I guess you would know that. I remember scribbling the name Simran on my history textbook after just watching the movie Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. There was something special about Simran. She was the ideal girl, beautiful and intelligent as well. A girl that any guy would be lucky to marry. One day in my 20s, I met Swapnil, again the letter S. We were working in the same organization and we became good friends. The more our interactions increased, I realized that we had a lot of things in common. We loved listening to music, especially the old Hindi ghazals. We liked reading, and we also loved traveling. And we liked to spend our evenings in the Marine Drive, sitting and just watching the sunset there. Slowly, our friendship blossomed into love. He was a Maharashtrian, I was a South Indian. I am a South Indian. And I was fickle like a feather in the wind, and he was calm like a shady tree, poles apart. The match seemed impossible, but his conviction, humility, and love for me really won my Appa's heart. I knew about the custom of changing the surnames after marriage, but I was surprised when I heard that There were some Indian families, especially the Maharashtrian families, where the women actually changed their first names after marriage. I hadn't heard about it anywhere. I just knew that Korean women didn't change their names after marriage, or that in some part of Europe the husbands kind of took over the wife's surname, or in some parts of US they kind of mix both the surnames and kind of bring up a new hybrid surname that they'll adopt. For me, my name was everything for me. It was a part of me. It was my identity. And it was mine. It was the only thing that was mine. And I tried not to think about what might happen. That is until one day when Swapnil said, I want you to change your first name. I had read stories of unconditional love where, people literally sacrificed everything for the love of their life. But then I was not ready for this. Not this, really. We are not asking for anything big. It's just a small name change, said my mother-in-law. To add to it, my sister-in-law said, it's a custom in our community. Every girl who marries the boy in our community has to change her name. I quickly realized that if I didn't do this, it would be interpreted as a sign that I didn't want to get married. So we went ahead. As time passed by, we kind of finalized the wedding invitation cards, got busy with the shopping, planning our honeymoon. I kind of lost track of time, and before I knew it, I was there, standing in the wedding mandap. Everything was like, there were floral decorations all over, everybody smiling, and I was there, standing right there, wearing a mango yellow Kanjivaram sari with a deep maroon border, looking at Swapnil's eyes, who was wearing olive green kurta and a cream pajama. As I looked into his eyes, the eyes of the man I would spend the rest of my life with, the priest handed over a plate of raw rice in his hands. What is the new full name of the bride? The priest asked. I looked at my husband in utter disbelief. I choked. A part of me really wanted to call off the marriage immediately at that point of time. But this wasn't a movie, was it? It was real life. And I had no option. I had to face it. My mother-in-law whispered something into my husband's ears, and by the time I realized, it was all done. I sacrificed my name in the sacred fire of union. I entered the hall as Jayashree Iyer and left the hall as Gayatri Aptekar. As I sat in the car and proceeded towards my new home, tears kept flowing, and everybody thought that I was crying because I was leaving my dad's house and I was getting married in the early 20s and all that. But it wasn't that. I was struggling. Even now, as I speak, my hands have gone cold. It was like as if somebody stabbed me so hard that I found difficult to breathe. I was an alien to my own eyes. By the way, Gayatri is a name of a Hindu goddess, and there's a popular hymn named as Gayatri Mantra, which when recited with full devotion brings abundance in one's life. I had once loved that name as a cousin of my own, but not now. My feelings towards my in-laws and my husband had changed. Not for the good though. When we reached our new home, I observed something strange in Swapnil, my husband's behavior. He was not addressing me by any name. Nor Gayatri, nor Jayashree, nor Jaya, nothing. He was like, hey, do you need water? Hey, are you comfortable? Hey, can I get you something to eat? Or hey, are you okay? And he was like, what is happening? And he did all of this and there was no eye contact. Perhaps he realized what was happening, and perhaps he realized that I was hurt. I remember this particular incident where my mother-in-law called me around 10 times for dinner, but I didn't respond. I just stood there in the kitchen and the name just floated over my head, out through the window. Instead, I yelled at her, telling, I am Jayashree, call me by that name. I still remember the look in her eyes. Years kind of passed by, and though I enjoyed my married life and became a mom, I was wearing a item of clothing that someone else picked out for me, something that I could never take off. Words were my only chance to vent out my frustrations. I began writing blogs, and that's where I met her. She was a prolific blogger and author who wrote about love, relationships, and life. Her blog was called Memoirs of Me. She wrote under the pen name Privy Files. Her blog followers addressed her as PT, Privy, Namrata, which was her real name, or Namu. She danced between these different names so naturally that I was surprised. Like, how could someone do this? She had written a short story on how a woman discovers her identity after 30 years of marriage. The protagonist of her story had also changed her first name, like me, which made me connect with her even more. I could so resonate with the protagonist of your short story, I wrote to her one day. It's so easy for a husband's family to change the name of a woman, but it's so challenging for a woman to accept this new identity and stay with it forever, I added. There are times when you write to authors or bloggers or people on the internet and they never respond, but Privy responded immediately. And this is what she wrote back. Thank you for reading my story. I understand how a woman must be feeling when her name is changed. But then as long as there is love, understanding and care, does name really matter? At a deeper level, I guess we are nothing but wandering souls looking out for love, compassion, and care. Our identity is beyond our name and beyond our physical form. We are so much more than what we come into this world as, she said. Her words made me introspect the 6 years of my marriage. My family loved me a lot, and they had been there through thick and thin. They had in fact supported me more than what my parents did. One part of me really wanted to let go of it, like what's in a name? But then there was this other part which kind of still felt deceived, which still felt that, somebody had backstabbed me so hard. Privy did have a point, but my mind refused to accept it. That was a really difficult night for me. I lay there on my bed, staring at the ceiling aimlessly. And I wondered, what was I really upset about? Was it the change of the name? Or was it that they didn't allow me to choose my new name? Maybe it was the latter, I thought. What if they had given me an option of choosing my new name? I would have perhaps responded more assertively. Maybe I would have chosen the name Simran. Carrying on the grudge all these years was some kind of, limiting our relationship. I already had this pre-notion that they had changed my name, and it was somewhere limiting our relationship. I was not able to show the real love that I had for them. I had to finally choose, and I decided to let go. And to forgive them and to see myself as more than just a name. My name was this much of me, but I was much more than that, isn't it? I decided to forgive them, and the moment I forgave them, I felt really light, lighter as a feather. The next day morning, after the chat with Privy, I went ahead to the kitchen and I really hugged my mother-in-law. And she was like, it was a surprise, for her, and it was really a Kodak moment. She was like touching me and like, you're all right, you're not having fever. And that really says a lot many things. Today, I'm Jayashree for my parents and my teachers. I'm Pac-Man for my office colleagues. I talk a lot and eat a lot. Gayu as a blogger for my blogger friends and virtual friends. Gayatri as a daughter-in-law. Mom for my daughter. And a blend of all of these for my dearest husband. Our name is like a bookmark that we leave in the story of another person's life. It's evidence of where we entered their journey, where we left, or where we stayed. We are not the bookmark, we only represent it. The way an echo isn't a voice, but a mere reflection of it. The original being far sweeter of the two. Thank you.